Aloha, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Roll the Level, Season 7, Episode 2. I am joined with the full crew today, Matt and Dave. Matt, I know he's tired, so we'll start with Damien. How are you doing?
I am, you know what, Sarah, I am glad to be here. It has been a very, very full day, but I don't know that there's any better way that I would want to end my day here today.
Okay, yeah. And Matthew?
Mm-hmm. I'm doing well. I am exceptionally tired. It is our day camp week at the church, and we've got 250 kids running through that building, and it is the most organized chaos I've ever seen in my life. It's such a machine. Like our director who takes care of it, she's a volunteer, but she's absolutely incredible, and she's got like everything is a fine science. Like, it's amazing. So it's been a very busy week, a very full week, a very good week. I'm super excited for next Monday because I'm taking the day off, so that'll be good.
Woo! I was gonna say, Matt, you've sent me some pictures of some of the stuff that you put together for the day camp.
That water slide was amazing.
Oh, the water slide was cool. Yeah,
I didn't even hear about the water slide.
Yeah, I didn't send you those pictures. Sorry, buddy.
I saw the Lego Man. I saw
awesome.
the Ninja Warrior course.
Oh yeah, for Summerfest. Yeah, it was cool. You got to see Human Foosball. We got a video up online actually for that,
nice.
which is pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty awesome.
That's good. That's good. And Sarah, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have no
That's
complaints.
good.
I've kind of
Super.
been having a staycation this week.
Mm.
So
right.
I'm
That's
just
true.
kind of like rejuvenating because
Yeah.
it kind of goes into our topic this week, I guess. But our topic this week is perspective change. And recently, I personally had a massive perspective change. So
Okay.
we're gonna go
Which
into
is
that
awesome.
later.
All
But
right.
we're gonna first dive into some games that may have their own perspective changes. And I thought I'd start it off. I hope
Yeah.
I'm not spoiling anything for anybody, but my perspective change comes from Spec Ops: The Line.
Oh wow, I forgot about that game.
And okay, to be fair, I stole this from my husband because I watched him play some of it. But
That's fair.
he reminded me of the story, but I'll just rehash really quickly. Like, through the whole game, you have to make a lot of choices on who to kill, who not to kill, and you're talking to the bad guy the whole game, like getting closer and closer. And in the end, it turns out that everything has been happening in your head. So the bad guy's actually already dead. You've actually just been killing innocent civilians because they're already dead. Like,
Oh snap!
so
Yeah.
you're actually the bad guy in the end. So you can choose to kill yourself or become the bad guy.
Yeah, it's
So that was like a
dark.
180. Like, it was
That's a
super
dark
dark,
game.
but it was
Yeah.
a great twist in the end that totally was just
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah, it was mechanically. I remember playing that game, and mechanically, it was actually pretty good. It was like a pre-division kind of cover mechanics and some stuff, and it was
Okay.
really good. But the story in that game was so
Probably the
intense.
best
Like,
part for sure.
yeah, like there were several times playing that game where I had to step away. I was like, okay, this is getting a little too real. I'm gonna step back. But it was a good
Sometimes you
game.
got to do that.
You do, and it's smart to do that.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
but yeah, that's me. How about you, Matt?
Ooh, so there are lots of games actually that I could pick out of a line because there's just some great storytelling out of there. But I actually want to highlight a game that I think gets more crap than it deserves, and I'm probably part of that problem, to be honest with you. Because when this game came out, I gave it all of the crap, but actually it was Doom 3. I went back recently and did a review of Doom 1, 2, and 3 on the Switch, which were excellent, by the way. Despite the Bethesda.net boss that was very hard to beat in.
Yeah, you did it on Switch, right?
In Doom 1 and 2. Yeah, there was a weird bug that they actually just announced today that they fixed, so that's good.
Oh, fantastic!
Anyway, in the process of going through this, I went through all of the campaigns, all of the expansions. I doomed out in a week. I played all three all the way through. It was insane. But in Doom 3, I think that game does get more crap than it deserves. It actually is a really, really good game. But you have to get your head out of the space that it's going to be like old school Doom. Like, they really tried to inject a lot of story into the game and tried to do something different. And I appreciate what they tried to do. Did they always succeed? Absolutely not. Especially Resurrection of Evil, I really struggled. That got a little frustrating, to be honest with you. But in base Doom 3, like, they really were pushing for more of the suspense, horror, jump scare kind of thing, which was really good. But anyway, I digress. There was a moment in that game where you are following your sergeant's orders. You're going through this game and you're doing all these things for him. And they actually did a pretty good job of setting it up to present everything in a certain light, which was really, really cool. And then, like, and of course it's Doom, so I'm just like going through and shotgunning everything because that's how I play Doom.
That's how you play Doom.
It is, right? Like you get a shotgun and you just keep using it until there's no ammo, and then you get a chainsaw. So anyway, I wasn't really paying super close attention, but then like there's this moment where you make a choice, and then naturally I had been following my sergeant's orders all the way through, and so he had given me this order, and someone's like, you shouldn't do this, and they had presented this character as kind of being shady. And then come to find out, it's my sergeant who's actually the possessed one and has been taken by the demons and all this stuff. And it was cool because it totally caught me off guard. So like this whole time, I've been actually like aiding and abetting the end of the world. And it was really well done. Yeah, it's like, oh man, my bad. I didn't do that.
My B, guys.
Sorry. So it just it gives motive for your fuel for killing all of the demon hordes later on. So, but it was really good because it did catch me off guard. Like I get in a mode when I'm playing Doom. Like, and I was joking with Sarah about this the other night. Like when I play Doom, it's get the blue key, get the yellow key, get the red key, get to the exit. Right? Like that is Doom. I mean, that's Doom 1 and 2 to a fault. I can attest to it. I just finished both. But what I appreciated about 3 is it like on the surface feels like that, but then it just spins it on its head on you, and you're like, wait, what? Wait, what? Where's the blue key? I don't understand what just happened. So that was kind of my game. I really appreciated it. It was really good. So
okay, Damien.
Wheel. I have to refrain from talking about some of the things
please.
about this game because Sarah, you're my friend, and you haven't fully finished this game, so I can't.
I finished, and that's not the DLC.
Okay, yeah, you finished the main game, just not the DLC for it. But Bioshock Infinite. Bioshock Infinite was actually my gateway into the Bioshock games.
Oh, wait, hold on. So you didn't actually start with Bioshock?
No.
Oh.
I started with Infinite, and I went back after that and played Bioshock 1. I didn't get through Bioshock 2.
No, that's
I don't
fine.
blame you.
Nobody did.
That's every response that I've gotten when I tell people that. It's like, yeah, that's expected. That's
true.
That's how you play. You play Bioshock 1, you go to Infinite, and then go from there.
And we call it a trilogy.
And we call it a trilogy, right? Right. Well, honestly, I really wish that the Burial at Sea DLC where you play as Elizabeth would have been a little bit longer because it was really neat. Like you got to go back into Rapture, and I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Because I like Sarah, and
because we are friends.
And I want to still be friends after this episode. But that particular game for me was it was such a heady game because it starts out with you're in a boat, you're as Booker, and you're heading towards the lighthouse. You have no idea what's going on. You're in the boat with the Letices, which are fantastic characters and have an incredible story all in and of themselves. But like throughout the game, you end up running into them, and there's this conversations about constants and variables and multi dimensions and stuff like that. But there's a moment, there's the moment that you discover as Booker who you actually are. It is a fantastic twist to the perspective, and suddenly that like bring us the girl and we'll wipe away your debt. Just mind blowing. In that, and so it really gives more motivation to understanding some of the other characters in the game, and I mean even to the point of like your confrontation with Father Comstock, it changes that perspective, and if you haven't played the game, that's all I'm gonna say about that. And you need to go pick it up during the next Steam sale and play it, because it is just, again, story-wise, very, very well written. The action is really, really good. And it just presents a really, I think for me, I really like the it was a really, really politically charged game. Yeah. But I really appreciate the way that it was presented. And anyway, I could rave about this game because I really, really enjoyed it. But it was really, really good Bioshock writing, Bioshock twists.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know it at the time when I first played it. Surprise! But it changed my perspective a couple of times throughout the game. And Sarah, as you led in about perspective changes, I think we've all had those moments in our lives where we've held something to be true, or we've had a particular way of looking at something, and then we have something that comes along and challenges that, which is not always a bad thing.
Truth.
I actually think that it does a really, really good thing for our faith when we have things that challenge it and challenge what we hold to be true and what we think that we're convinced of that we know. And so there are several moments throughout Scripture that really, really highlight it. But there's one in particular in 2 Kings that we were actually talking about before we started recording the show here, that really highlights the situation. 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 17 through 20, just to kind of set the stage of what's going on here. The people of Israel are at war with the Arameans, and the king of Aram, he sends this big force into Israel. And in the midst of this, Elisha, who is a prophet of God, who basically his whole job is to tell Israel, like, hey, you are God's people. Don't be dumb. If you're dumb, this is what will happen.
Yeah, I was just thinking that key appeal.
Don't be dumb, Aaron. Don't be dumb, Aaron. Yeah.
Sorry, that's all I can
No, you're good. You're good. But into this situation, the king of Aram, he's sending this force in, and not only are the people really concerned about this, but Elisha's own servant is just freaking to geek out here. With this, like he's sitting there thinking like, we're surrounded. This is it. This is how I die.
Yeah.
and I don't know about you, but I've had moments like that in the last couple of days or last couple of weeks where I was like, oh, okay, this is how I die. Right?
Yeah, you texted me one of those. I remember that.
I did.
You did.
I was walking through my church building one night, and I discovered this funny quirk in our church building. And every time that we have a power outage, we have this emergency light that just decides that for 24 hours it wants to go sing us the song of its people. Well, I'm like in the church one night after this happens, trying to find the electrical box for this, and I'm having to like dig through closets and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is how I die. I pulled the handle off of the door to the closet in the basement of the church where I'm trying to find the stuff. And,
Dame 2, doors 0.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh man. Okay, story time here.
Story time with Damien.
Story time with Damien. Okay, so in college, I kind of developed this nickname for myself from Matt's family called Dr. Destructo.
True story.
Because I destroyed a carpet. I destroyed a front door by pulling a handle off of it. I almost killed Matt's fiance at the time, now his wife, by flipping a four-wheeler over onto us. And not only did I flip it over onto us, but by pushing it off, I bent the front rack that was on the Yamaha Big Bear, I believe it was, and busted the fender on it as well. And then the coup de grace of this all was that my 1994 Chevy Astrovan plowed into, there was black ice on the driveway, plowed into a wrought iron bench, Sheila 1, bench 0. The van destroyed, absolutely destroyed this bench. So when Matt says Dame 2, doors 0.
Like the Hulk.
Yeah, it's so true.
So for a wedding gift, Matt's parents got me a hammer, and I have to. I think I actually have the thing like laying down here a second. Like this is so
That's
good.
awesome.
We're recording video right
I love that you have it right by your desk. That's what makes me happy about this whole situation.
I I know where it is. It's actually right outside of the room here, but so I can't go get it. But
That's
my toolbox is right here because moving in and all and
yeah.
finding places for everything. But yeah, they got me a hammer as a wedding gift. And on one side of the head, it said Dr. Destructo. And on the other side of the head, they wrote, so that you can destroy things easier.
Because you needed help. So it's
Exactly.
good.
Because I needed help. But anyway, back to the farm. So in this situation, like Elisha's servant, he's freaking out. Like he's going, okay, this is how I died. This is how we died. It's game over, man. And in this moment, Elisha prays. He just stops and he prays. And it says this, it's starting in verse 17. This is 2 Kings again, chapter 6, starting in verse 17. It says, and Elisha prayed, open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked, and he saw that the hills were full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. As the enemy came towards him, Elisha prayed to the Lord, strike this army with blindness. So he struck them with blindness, and as Elijah had asked. Elisha told them, this is not the road, and this is not the city. Follow me, and I will lead you to the man you are looking for. And he led them to Samaria. As they entered the city, Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men so they can see. Then the Lord opened their eyes, and they looked, and they were inside Samaria. I love it. I love this.
Right.
Because not only does God give Elisha's servant this vision of God's protection over them, but he also does this miraculous thing where it's like the greatest hoodwink. In scripture, where it's like, oh, sorry guys, your princess is in the wrong castle, in the other castle.
Truth. It's true.
But incredible perspective shift in that moment. And really you had two people that had two different visions of things within here. You had the servant who's seeing things as they are, and he's freaking out, and he's kind of, he feels like he's justified in freaking out because this is an impossible situation.
Yep.
But then you have Elisha in this situation who says, yeah, this is rough, but I know who my God is. So I know he's got my back. And so he stops and prays. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I know for me personally, I can get so fixated on the immediate, and what's going on situationally around me and circumstantially around me that sometimes I forget to step back and say, okay, God, you're bigger than this thing, and you're bigger than me, and you see all ends. What do you see in this situation? And I try to fix it, right? Because it's what you do. Especially when you're the pastor.
True.
You try to fix it. But I don't know. But then there are those moments where I have to step back and go, okay, this is not about me, and this is so much bigger than me, and I have to remember the God that I serve. And I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, like, I have to make a conscious decision that it's not just it happens and the perspective changes.
Yeah.
I have to step back and say, okay, time out here. I need to revisit this, and I really need to. I need a different set of lenses really to look through in the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this story. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible, actually. And whenever I teach on the subject of faith or talk about the subject of faith, this story readily comes up, quite frequently comes up, because it is, it's such an incredible shift in perspective. Because the reality is that in the situation, God is always there. Like, he was always there. There was never a moment in that situation where he wasn't. But there was this lack of faith in a lot of ways. This disconnect between where the servant was and what God was doing. Right. The servant's perspective on reality was different than God's. And we know that God is truth, and we know that his perspective is the right perspective. But it's so easy to get caught up in our own heads, right? We get the drama in our own heads. We get so caught up, and we start playing out all these different scenarios about how terrible it's going to be and all the horrible things that could go on. And, it'll be the end of the world, and the zombies will come, and it'll just be bad.
And I'm going to be out of ammo, and I don't have a red key, and I don't have a blue key, and I don't have a yellow key.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite memes on the internet when it comes to like the zombie apocalypse is like, hey, pick the guy that's you, and it's got like 4 guys barricaded in and then a bunch of zombies. And like the arrow's pointing at one of the zombies because realistically, that's probably statistically who will be. But anyway, I digress. But what I love about this is that it's this reminder that man, when it comes to engaging in life, engaging in reality, we always have to choose how we're going to view the present reality.
Yep.
Right? In every situation, in every circumstance that comes up in life, you have to make a conscious decision if you're going to allow your perspective to be governed by fear, by selfishness, by your own desire to control, or if we're going to allow our perspective on reality to be guided and governed by God. And I always tell people whenever we're getting ready for mission trips or we're doing missions oriented work or we're focusing on outreach, at the end of the day, stuff's going to happen one way or the other. You're going to have good stuff happen, you're going to have bad stuff happen, and you will always give glory to someone. We're built for worship, and that's another discussion for another time, but we are hardwired for worship, and you are always giving glory and praise to someone. It's either God, it's yourself, or it's the enemy. And you get to choose every day who it's going to be. And so when those life situations happen, I always have to remind myself, and my senior pastor is great at this. I love Tom. He's incredible for this. He takes every situation I think I've ever seen him in, and he always looks at it from God's perspective. Like even when like he gets like attacked by someone in the church, if someone, and this doesn't here or there, just as an example, like if someone like attacked him in the church, he's just like, man, you know what? I just got like tromped on by somebody. And that's awesome because it means God's doing something and the enemy doesn't like it, right? Yeah. Like there's this perspective of God is always at work. And if you're being persecuted, that's awesome because it means God's doing something big. And it's a constant reminder for me. And that's what I love about this story is that like you get to choose and you get to look at things any which way you want. And ultimately looking at it from God's perspective is the best way to look at things because in that you will find hope. You will find a peace that doesn't make sense, and you will find a joy that no one can take away. I guess I'm so encouraged by that.
And that mindset is so good because we tend to have like a goldfish brain when it comes to faith.
Yeah, truth. Sometimes,
yeah. Sometimes we forget exactly who God is. I actually got to talk a little bit about that on Sunday about who God is, and it's so cool to think about. What we know about God based on scripture and like he's fantastic and wild and untamed and just amazing, but sometimes we forget that because of the familiarity of we can openly worship him and go to our churches and small groups and stuff like that without fear. I think for me, like one of those moments, those aha moments that I go back to, that's kind of an angering point when I think about my circumstances and the things that I'm going through and how God can redeem those things. And I think I shared this in a previous episode, so I'll just give the condensed version. But I had this perspective on after I graduated from college, that I was supposed to move to a specific location for a specific reason, and all of that stuff fell through. It was miserable, actually, for the most part. There were some good things that came out of that, some really, really amazing things in that particular location. Actually, it really, I feel like it really, really helped my relationship with my older brother. But anyway, in the midst of that, it kind of put me at a disadvantage when it came to finding a job in a church, because it was through the normal season where people are looking for assistant pastors. It was beyond graduation; everything was kind of being scooped up. And so I was waiting and ended up working at a Toys R Us, was miserable, did it. And I tried to make the best out of it, and God brought some amazing opportunities for ministry to people, in that place. But one of the coolest things, of that was when I did finally interview at a church, they had been doing this toy drive this outreach event where they had some people had donated a significant amount of money. The purpose was to buy toys for kids that wouldn't have had Christmas otherwise. And so I walked into a candidacy weekend where they were doing this event over the weekend. I walk into that room. I knew every single product that was in that room because I'd just been working with it for the last 3 or 4 months. So like
every SKU in that room.
Yeah, I knew every SKU in that room. And I'm sitting there I'm thanking God for the last 3 months of just like frustration because I'm like, this is it. This is the reason why I was here. And even still, like, there are experiences that I'm having right now that I'm going, okay, 10 years ago, I went through this thing or sometime within the last decade or 12 plus years, I'm looking back and going, okay, I now know why I had to go through that. I now can see what God was doing in the midst of that because now I'm in a place where I am ahead of the curve because I've been through those things or because God allowed me to experience those things, even though they were messy and painful and uncomfortable and challenging. They're good because he's true to his word, right? And if he says he's faithful, he's going to be faithful. And I go back to that Romans 8:28, which I think sometimes we get the context a little bit wrong with this, but it says that and we know that God works out the good for those who love him and are called according to his good purposes. And I can see in my own life where, I've gone through some things that God may not have chosen for me, but circumstances brought me into those things, maybe by my choice or the choices of other people. But God could use that thing to his glory and for the saving work of other people too. And so it's caused me to look at just about every other situation that I go through and go, okay, what is the thing that God is either teeing up here or that he is that he's preparing me for. I don't want to like steal the show here because I know that Sarah had some stuff that she wanted to share with perspective here too. So I'm going to throw it over to Sarah now.
Well, no, it's just a fresh thing in my mind recently that I personally dealt with in the past month because I mentioned last week how summer has just sucked. Like, for me personally. Just with all the health stuff I've been dealing with, like I was recently diagnosed with 2 separate things that are like not curable. So they just keep giving me like different medications and try this, and I eventually just said, I'm gonna go the natural route. I don't do medication. I just have a thing against it. So I went to somebody that was recommended to me to try and help me build up like a plan to get my body back in shape, like because it was just falling apart. So before I go into this, you have to know that I have a history of eating disorders and OCD. So
2 things that don't go well together.
No, they are horrible. So I went to the naturopath, and the first thing they recommended me is a diet. I was like, oh, okay. So I went on this diet to try and fix myself, and I got so sick. And I was just thinking, I was so in my head. I was just so focused on food. It was nonstop thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat next? I have to stay perfect on this plan or else I'm not going to be healed, stuff like that. And it was coming from a person of authority that somebody recommended. So I'm like, okay, they must know their stuff. I got to stick with this. So for 3 weeks, I stuck with it. And I was in such a horrible place. I could not think about anything else except for food. And eventually I broke down. I just cried. And I was just falling apart. And so eventually I went to a different naturopath. And I kind of started turning a corner after they started talking to me. And they said, don't do this diet anymore. They listened to me. And they were like, you have OCD. Why are you doing this? I'm like, you tell me.
You're the expert.
I was told this. So I guess you guys don't agree. So I started following their plan, and I've just been in such a miserable place that whole time that I just had, like a couple weeks ago, I just had to stop. I was thinking, I am so stressed out. There is no God in any of this that I'm doing. Like, I have not stopped to think about him. I have not done any Bible readings. I have not done like hardly any praying about any of this. And why? Like, what has happened? I was so obsessed. So I stood there and I just said, all this stress, you have to just let it go. Just let it go and trust God with it. Because he has made your body in like such a crazy way. It will heal itself. Like it will do wonders if you stop stressing.
Well, stress doesn't really help you out any.
No.
It really doesn't.
No. And all this worry that was just built up in me, I just said, give it to God. And then I just stood there and made that decision. And that was my perspective change of, I'm going to do this right now. And since then, I have seen such great things in my life, like just such a corner turned in my health and things that are in my head. Like, I was speaking to somebody recently and I said something like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. I'm like, that's not something I'd usually say. But it came out of me and it was like somebody working through me. I'm like, that is not me. That is God saying that.
Wait a minute.
It was awesome. I'm like, these are the things I was missing out on in my horrible month. And it's like, it was such a great change, but it was not easy. Like, I'm so glad I went through that experience though. I needed to show that I am weak and I need God. And so it was such a crappy month that it was totally worth it. So
I do want to kind of throw in a little bit of a caveat here, and I'm really, really glad that that you're finding some things that are working for you that, health wise are kind of, they're, on the natural route and that's working for you. And that's awesome. Anytime we talk about stuff like that, like I always want to like kind of throw in the caveat of like, God has made your body, but he's also like made doctors and nurses and given them wisdom and inspiration for like how to medicate that. And sometimes they don't always get it right. So just wanted, I always kind of feel like that.
No, I'm not saying that they're bad. Like if I had like my liver exploded, yes, I would go to the doctor.
Yeah.
I've seen you go before your liver explodes.
Perspective changes are always good when they are partnered with wisdom. Right. And so, anyway, I didn't mean to like,
no, you're totally right. Like, no, the doctors didn't get it wrong. I just choose not to take medication, so I went on a different route. That's all. But he was totally right to diagnose me the way he did, because the naturopath agreed. Yes, you do have these things. So,
Fair.
I'm not putting you down, Doc. I like you a lot.
Shout out to my doctor.
It's pretty awesome.
Fair enough. Well, guys, we're kind of running beyond our normal time here, so we're going to go ahead and close out the episode here as the conversation kind of winds down. But we want to thank you all for joining us here on this episode of Roll the Level. We're going to try to get back into a regular routine now as we're in a new season and as we're all finding our new rhythms with life stuff and whatnot. True. But we're going to continue these conversations about life, God, and video games in no particular order. And we look forward to next time to helping you roll the level.